Hello and welcome to this mid-morning taste challenge. I have two rye whiskeys. Okay, and they were both introduced in 2012, interestingly. This is George Dickel rye whiskey, established 1870. Well, that's when George Dickel was established. Now, they might have made a rye before this, this is just the current version. 90 proof, 45% alcohol, age statement not listed, so we know it's at least 4 years. They don't claim that it's straight rye, interestingly enough. It just says rye whiskey, which means it is allowed to have flavoring and coloring added. I'm not saying that they're adding flavoring and coloring. I'm saying that's allowed if you read your regulations. So whiskey without an E, it's charcoal mellowed and chill filtered because George Dickel Company, he pioneered chill filtering. So of course, all their products are chill filtered, but many of them are, or all of them are charcoal mellowed. It's a Tennessee, well, most of their products are Tennessee whiskey. This is an Indiana whiskey. This is distilled in Indiana at Lawrenceburg on an Indiana night. And then it's bottled in Tennessee. So it's got an embossed bottle, kind of fancy. Fancy. It runs about $26, $27 a bottle. But I found this at Walmart for $12.50. True story, not kidding. $12.50. Don't know why they had it on closeout. I guess it wasn't selling. I don't care. I got it. And I bought the Superior number 12, the George Dickel 12, which was also $12.50. So I paid $25 plus tax. I got 2 full bottles. Great deal. Great deal. So it's an old company, but they got bought by Diageo from England, London, England, and a Guinness company, Guinness beer company, but they call themselves Diageo. And Diageo had also bought the Lawrenceburg, Indiana distillery. No, didn't buy, contracted with it. Sorry. They do a lot of contract distilling with them, like Seagram 7 Crown, and well, all kind of stuff. Can't even go into all of it. So that company up there in Indiana, they do a lot of rye whiskey. They do a lot of gin, and they do a lot of bourbon. They just churn it out all day long, all night long. Bourbon, rye, gin, bourbon, rye. So, and other stuff too. So you can, and they make their own brands, like Uncle Remus, I think is one of theirs, but they got certain rye you can choose. The 95% mash bill, 95% rye, 5% malted barley, 90 proof. Boom, they'll put your label on it, or they'll send it to you, and you can put your label on it if you bottle there. And it's kind of like all the same stuff. You can flip it around a little bit, like charcoal mellow it, or don't charcoal mellow it, or age it longer or less to try to differentiate. Ooh, nice pop, synthetic cap, nice. But it's basically the same stuff. So Midwest Grain Products does a lot of distilling because, in fact, it's one of the biggest distillers in the world. Put it in the wrong label. Don't want to go through that again. Now, I think these are more similar than different. Neither one has an age statement. Maybe it's 50-50. I was thinking about that when I was rinsing this glass. Maybe they're not that similar because, yeah, they're both rye whiskeys, but one is from Kentucky and one's from Indiana, not far across the river from each other. Both introduced in 2012. One's 100 proof, the Knob Creek Rye, introduced in 2012, discontinued last year. and replaced with a 7-year and a 10-year age. This was the non-age stated. So they're both aged at least 4 years. This one's 100 proof. This one's 90 proof. Not a huge difference, but a difference. But on second thought, the Knob Creek is straight Kentucky rye whiskey, and George Dickel does not claim to be straight whiskey. It just says rye whiskey. You say, well, it's got no age statement. It's aged at least 4 years. It must be straight whiskey. Well, well, that's a deep subject. Yeah, but what if they're adding flavoring and coloring to it? Didn't say they were. I said, what if? So if you're adding any flavoring or coloring, automatically it would not be listed as a rye whiskey, but you could still call it rye whiskey. Of course, it's a rye whiskey, just happens to have coloring and flavoring added. You say, well, that doesn't say anything on the label. I don't see anything on there about that. Ah, but check your regulations. Check your regulations. Flavoring and coloring is allowed and is not required to be disclosed. Label disclosure not required. So you're telling me, like, this is me talking to myself. You're telling me that they could add coloring or flavoring to a rye whiskey and they do not have to put it on the label. They can absolutely add flavoring and coloring to it, and they absolutely do not have to put it on the label, as per the regulations, which I did not write. Now, once you see the word straight rye, well, that's it. No coloring or flavoring added. Can't be. It's not allowed. So this one's amber. Copper. This one's actually copper. It's like a copper water pipe, like you see in the neighborhoods when they're doing water line work. And this one, well, now they use PVC mostly, the plastic, which supposedly is better, but I'm not sure about that. But anyway, this one is amber, more amber than copper. So that's obviously the George Dickel, and this one is the Knob Creek. Are they both popular? Yes. Knob Creek, like I said, runs about $28.99 these days. Dickel, I'm thinking $25.99, but let's check Total Wine just to be sure. Can't check Walmart because, like I said, they got rid of it, which is why I got it for $12.50. If you can believe it, it's a true story. They do sell some George Dickel products though, but not the rye. Guess it just was a slow mover. My town, where I live, you have trouble selling more dedicated, more like elaborate products because people drink Crown Royal, Bud Light, and Mogan David wine. That's kind of like what they drink. Okay. And when they get in fancy, they drink Barefoot. Okay. George Dickel, $25.99, just like I thought. Yeah. Talking about the rye. So I got it for less than half of that. It's George Dickel, a good whiskey. It's good, but it's a weird, it's a strange, it's unusual. I'll show you the website. Can't show you the website for Knob Creek rye because the product is no longer in production. They have the Knob Creek 7-year rye. So here we go. Our rye, only ryes, finished in the chill charcoal style. Correct. Chill filtered, then charcoal mellowed. That makes our whiskey, the spicy but exceptionally smooth finish makes it a great choice. Classic cocktails like the Old Fashioned and Manhattan. George Dickel, 45% alcohol. Cascade Hollow Distilling Company. Yeah, but actually it's distilled in Indiana, but why nitpick? 95% rye, 5% malted barley. Tasting notes: fruit, clove, and cinnamon notes maintain upon first taste and then finish with a long composed spiciness. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll never be able to detect all that. They're not showing anything in the last 6 years, so that's telling you something. And they do give tours at that distillery, but of course you won't see them making this there since it's made in Indiana. A highball, very common cocktail. A daiquiri, a Boulevardier, and then one with other George Dickel whiskeys, like the number 8, which I've never had. True story. I've had the 12, but I never had the 8. Yeah. Not 12 years, not 8 years, just they call it number 12. Superior number 12 and Superior number 8, introduced in 1964, replacing George Dickel Cascade whiskey. Well, maybe replacing it. If you say, well, hell, I live in Tennessee. They got a store a mile from my house. They got Cascade whiskey all day. Yeah, a lot of these liquor companies, they produce products that they do not list on the website. And mainly to just put a cheap product out there. And also, if they don't put the product out there for a number of years, they'll lose the trademark. It goes into public domain and somebody else can pick it up. So yeah, they're not going to do that. So yeah, you might live in Tennessee and you might have a liquor store that sells Cascade whiskey. And you say, but this bottle says it's made from Cascade Whiskey Company, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Well, yeah. That's an alias name that they're using. Just like when I was at the Jack Daniels distillery, they showed all these weird corn and bourbon and blended whiskeys that they used to make, but like I said, might still make. But it's a niche thing. They might only put out a few barrels a year in some obscure Tennessee towns, and it might be like really cheap, low grade, but it keeps the trademark in effectiveness. Trademark stays current. And those companies, if they got to renew the trademark, they don't mind paying that. That's like me and you paying for a bubble gum at the bubble gum machine. All right. Okay. Just a generalized rye whiskey aroma, honestly. So we're getting into the Indiana ryes on an Indiana night. So I have a lot of I have a few Indiana ryes. I wouldn't say a lot. A lot would be like 30, not a handful. But I have some. They're all made by the same company. Under contract, Midwest Grain Products. It smells kind of normal, kind of regular, kind of, if you want to say it's a little bland, okay, I'm game. How much do I have of this left? I could get at least 7 to 10 taste challenges out of that, I think. Sometimes it's a little deceptive, but okay, on aroma, ain't a lot difference. Mash bill on Knob Creek, we don't know. They don't disclose it. I heard a rumor that say you got a low rye bill. Yeah, supposedly, you say, well, I read it on the internet. Yeah, supposedly the mash bill is low rye, for a rye whiskey, like 51% rye, maybe 45% corn. It's high corn, they claim, high corn, and then maybe 4% malted barley. So kind of like the James B. Beam, the Beam rye mash bill. But they put it at a small batch because it's 100 proof and it's aged longer. Whereas the Beam might only be aged 3 years or something like that. Okay, so, but it might be the same ingredients. And it might have a deeper char, like the barrel might be charred more heavily. Huh. Now, I took my vitamin C this morning, but I no longer take Flintstone vitamins. When I was a little kid, we used to have to take the Flintstone vitamins every morning. They had different shapes, like Bam Bam, Fred, Betty, and they had and then they had different flavors. We always would fight over the grape. Now, whether those Flintstone vitamins helped us, I don't know. I know it's still made by Bayer. I guess stores sell it. I don't really, buy that. But they had Pebbles and all, and so forth. So and my parents we would have, they're chewables. You little kids hate to swallow pills. So, but it had that weird mineral flavor, like there's minerals in it, and this one has that. And a lot of people say George Dickel tastes like Flintstone vitamins, and I do agree with that. But I'm thinking it's coming from this flavoring they're adding, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully, it is Flintstone vitamins, so you get a healthy supplement when you drink it. But Flintstone vitamins are made by Bayer, 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 the aspirin company. They have a big factory, refinery across the river from here, southeast of here. Somebody told me it got sold. I don't know about that. But yeah, it's huge. I've been past it. Got that thing locked down like a fort. This is much stronger, bolder, heavier bodied. Clearly 100 proof. This is clearly 90 proof. This is the Knob Creek, and it tastes better. But it doesn't cost but $3 more. Knob Creek. So, Dickel Rye, $25.99. Talking about Total Wine, right? Knob Creek, $28.99. $3 difference is probably a $10 better product. Think about that. You pay $3 more, but it's $10 better. So does George Dickel Rye compete, competently or, decently compete against Knob Creek? No, it doesn't. It honestly does not. So I would say George Dickel is nice. It's a nice rye whiskey, kind of like the Ezra Brooks, but it's aged longer. But against Knob Creek, it's a fiasco. Can't make it. Cannot make it. In my opinion. Can you tell them apart? Yeah, without any effort. There's no way you're going to confuse the two. They have common flavors, like the rye bread, the little spiciness, maybe the black pepper and all. But this one's lighter bodied. You can just tell. The body's light. This one's heavier. This one's lighter in alcohol. This one's stronger. This one has some character. This one has more character. So it's like a really nice whiskey versus a much nicer whiskey. So sorry, George Dickel Company. I guess I won't be getting those freebies. Well, consider I never did get anything from them in my whole life. Not that I was looking for it, or Jim Beam, I might add. Just kidding about all that, of course. But yeah, would I recommend George Dickel? Well, yeah, sure, I'd recommend it, especially if you find it at Walmart on a closeout for $12.50. Woo, what a deal, what a deal, what a deal, what a world, what a world. Would I recommend the Knob Creek? You best to believe it, especially if you find it at a local store like I did for $13.98 for the full amount. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But do I find these deals a lot these days? Well, 5 years ago, I would find them every month. 3 years ago, every other month. Now, maybe twice a year. But I did find one of the greatest deals. And know what? Well, a pretty great deal, honestly. To get it for $9.49 discount, basically half the price. Oh, I thought it was some kind of mistake. When I was looking at that this morning during the taste challenge, I was like, nah, that's a mistake, because they were saying Ezra Brooks bourbon cream for $9.50. I'm looking at that, I'm like trying to wipe my face in a metaphysical sense. And I'm like, Nah, no way that's $9.50, because when it first came out about 3 years ago, it was $34, $33, 33 proof, $33. I was like, only a madman would pay that. You have to be crazy to pay that, because you can get Ryan's Irish style cream liqueur, Irish cream for Irish style cream, because it's actually made in Kentucky. But if you can get that, you can get that for $9.99. It's really good. It's very popular in Louisiana, at least. So why would I pay $33.99, 33, whatever it was, for Ezra Brooks bourbon cream when I could get the same size bottle of Ryan's for $9.99? Well, the simple answer was I would never do that. I would never do that. But I was doing this video earlier today with a different rye, and I was looking up, and I said $9.50. I said, that's clearly a mistake. I know Walmart website makes mistakes sometimes. Then you go to the store and it's a different price. I said, well, let me see. I'm going to check it out. I had to go get something else at Walmart. So I went over there. It's only a half a mile away. I could walk there in 10 minutes. I went over there and I asked the guy at the checkout. They got rid of the self-checkout mostly because they had a lot of problems with that. And people didn't really like it anyway. But like they said on the Yahoo News, it was glitchy. Yeah, it was glitchy, all right. But I went over there and I asked the guy, I said, can you do a price check? Because I want to check on this. He said, okay. So he rang it up, $9.50. I said, okay. I said, the tag on the shelf says $13.99. I said, but the website said $9.50. I said, $13.99, I don't want it. $9.50, I'm on that. He said, yeah. He laughed. Yeah. So I could show you the bottle, but that was the deal of the month, the deal of the year, honestly. Why did they drop it so low from $33 to $9.50? I think that's an easy answer. Nobody bought it. They screwed up. They thought they could up the alcohol level from, 25 proof to 33 proof. Oh, wow. It's so important. It's such an important change. This is their thinking. Make a new bottle, make it look fancier. It looked nicer. I'll agree, although the old label looked nice. And it was stronger. Okay. But the price went from $11.99 to $33. I said, those people are out of their minds. I'm not buying it. And I think Walmart, they have an automated system. It's all computerized. They don't really sit there and research it. It's all what you could say artificial intelligence. It just brings up a flash like not selling. I don't know what terminology they use. Not selling. Sales performance low. Sales performance low. Meaning conclusion, get rid of it. So $9.50. I'll buy that all day long because that stuff is really good and it's definitely worth more than $9.50. But I can show it to you if you want to see the bottle. If you want to see what it looks like, let me know now or forever hold your peace. But I was very impressed with that. Now, I might not see another deal at Walmart till December. Oh, crap. Hold on. I know who it is. Firestone. They fixed my tire pressure monitoring system. This one time, I'm telling you right now, I'm not paying for that again. I can check my own tire pressure, but the United States government, around the time when these products came out, mandated that every vehicle from that point on had to have a tire pressure monitoring system, an automated system that would tell you if your tires are low, because it's so hard to check on your own. So I bought this Nissan, and I think it's 40 miles to the gallon on a road trip, so I'm not complaining, and I paid a low price for it. So I found this Nissan Versa 4-door, comfortable as heck to drive in. Drove it up, well, I only have 30,000 miles on it, but I've driven it to Houston and everything. But and of course, you know those cars are popular. You see them everywhere. But it started showing an alert, and it was saying the tire pressure monitoring system is in a malfunction. I said, oh, Lord. So Walmart tried to reset it, but it wouldn't work. So then Firestone, they said, well, we're going to try to reset it. But he said, yeah, it wouldn't work. It was just one of those sensors on the back, the rear passenger tire, I think it was. That's irrelevant. So he said, yeah, we have to change it. He said, I have a whole bunch of those sensors. I can change it in a snap. But the price was extraordinary. So I had to pay I'm going to have to pay all this money, which is disgusting, but I'll pay it one time. Now, my friend David said, and of course it went out after the warranty expired, right? So my friend David was like, don't pay for that. Just let it show that light. Who cares? He said, I got, he said, do I have a sensor on my Toyota? He's got a 05. I said, well, of course you don't have it. He said, I could check my tires. I said, that's true. And I had a 06 Toyota Corolla, which was awesome. I said, I know. I mean, I said, but I'm going to pay it. I'm going to pay it, you know. I said, but that's it. If it breaks again, I ain't paying for it. You know. The man at Firestone said they always breaking, you know. He said those things, they replace those things constantly. You know, he said, but it's easy to replace. The labor is low because it's nothing to replace it. He said, but the part is high. It's expensive. This is his claim. Now that could be a lie, but I didn't get the impression that he was lying. But so I'm gonna have to walk over there and pick up my car. So do I recommend a Nissan Versa? I do recommend it. I mean, they've been making it for 14 years. Every year they say they're going to discontinue it. I've been hearing this for years. They're going to get rid of it this year. I don't know if they're saying that because it's true or they're saying that because they're trying to get people to go run and buy them. But it's very popular, and it is versatile, like they say. That's where the name comes from, versatile. You can seat 4 adults, like cramped, but you know, no, I mean, but you do get good gas mileage. And there's a man that I know I talked to. He's an old man. He's like 80 something. He bought a stick shift. He said they had special order that it came from Mobile, Alabama. I had to wait 2 days for that, but he got it for like actually about $1,000 cheaper. But he wanted the 5-speed, and I told that man, I said I was looking for one of those, but they didn't have it. He said, yeah, they didn't have it where I went in New Orleans or Metairie, New Orleans. He said, but I bought it. I said, why you wanted a stick shift? Manual transmission. He said, I just like driving them, you know. And I was like, I'm the same way. I said, what's the gas mileage on that? He said, oh, it's amazing. And I saw his car in a store parking lot, and I was looking at it, and I said, man, that looks so good. I would love to drive that stick shift again, which I had in the 81 Mustang, 89 Mustang LX, 93 Mustang LX. Yeah, I don't know. It's if you don't drive them, you don't know. It's just fun, you know. But now that's the only car currently made, except for the Mustang. You can find you can get a 6-speed? You can get a manual transmission in Mustang, but you'll definitely have to special order that because 99% of people buying the car do not want a manual. I had that in the Isuzu truck, the 2007 Isuzu i290. Oh, that thing was a jewel. That thing was primo. You know how long it took me to sell that when I got a new vehicle? 1 day. I sold it in 1 day. I actually sold it in 1 hour. Somebody at work said, you got an Isuzu truck? I said, yeah. And I told them the mileage. They were like, we're going to come look at it. And 1 hour, I sold it. It was an awesome truck. Anyway, Anyway, so cheers to Knob Creek, the clear and present winner. Who would have ever doubted it? I wouldn't have doubted it. Now, do I have any other rye whiskeys coming up? Yes, I have Templeton. It won't win. It's going to be just like George Dickel. You want to save time? Don't watch the video. It's going to be a wipeout. I've got Bouillet rye, same product, basically from the same distillery. It will never win. It will not win. It cannot win. Do I like those Indiana ryes from Midwest Grain Products, MGP? I like them. They're good. They do a good job. They've been distilling since 1847. They probably know what they're doing. But against Knob Creek, don't stand a chance. Does not stand a chance. Then that will close out the rye whiskey. Well, we have to go to Scotland. There's a Johnny Walker rye. You say, oh, you're crazy. Yeah, there's a Johnny Walker high rye. And I got that for the price of the century. And look, I don't want to say too much on the internet. That is not a special price. That price has been on that shelf for a year and it's on the website. I'm gonna talk to y'all later about that. Because I'm looking at this on the internet and everybody's selling it for like $44.99, $45. Look, I know where to find it. When I tell you the price, you're going to be like, ain't nobody selling that for no $20. Okay, well, I'm telling you, I know where to find it and it ain't no special. Okay, and then we have one from, let's see, Scotland and one from... two from Canada, 100% rye, which actually is kind of bland. And then just a regular rye from Canada. So yeah. Oh yes. And then we're going on to bourbon. You say bourbon, yes. And when you see this bourbon, you're going to say, oh yeah, I heard about that product. And it's very nice. My friend David would strongly disagree. He hates it, but I like it. All right, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.